Alright, so in this video, I'm going to show you guys how we took our van from this that you're seeing right here to what our van currently is, which is this right here. We gained about 16 inches by converting it. So first we went to a junkyard and found a van topper that we thought fitted. As you can see here, I am unscrewing screws around the channeling. It's pretty easy to take these van toppers off. They have usually some kind of glue and some kind of screw that's running through them. And this one was screwed to the van like that and then glued, and I took a crowbar and slid the glue out all the way around and then just lifted it off. So not really a big problem there. Went pretty easy. Right here I'm just pressure washing it off and cleaning off the grime from where me and my wife had to drag it out of the junkyard, which was one of the biggest problems with the whole topper experience itself, is that they are much heavier than you realize and hard to move. And so I would advise to go with two people who could pick the topper up instead of having to drag it out, especially in a junkyard. So it's a new day. I tried to record this yesterday, but as you can see, the van topper does not fit exactly. It sits over the back a little bit, so I'm gonna modify it and make it work. It doesn't sit in the front right either. It's a little too narrow in the front. Our van's a little more square than the other one was, so we're going to modify it. So the idea here is to cut off enough to where it will sit flush against the front of the van. I don't know if that's gonna be possible or not, but I think I'm gonna be able to work it out. Respirator's on since I'm gonna be cutting fiberglass. Okay, time to make the first cut. So as I mentioned there, definitely you want to be wearing a respirator when cutting this fiberglass and some kind of shield, face shield. One of the biggest parts with doing all of this is that it took a lot of fitting and refitting and retesting, and you can see me testing and cutting here and just doing different measurements and then cutting and then measurements and cutting and then testing and then cutting, and having a board run across the top like that was the easiest way to get that done. Easily being able to test it. And one thing also is I would recommend getting the correct bits. I thought steel bits would be able to do it, or plastic bits, especially on this multi-tool, but they make fiberglass cutters, which they're like kind of gritty. They look like sandpaper, but they cut it like it's butter. So I would definitely get that, and don't use a metal blade. It will dull your metal blade. So right here you can see that we took a different change in pace. I was just cutting the edges off, and now I'm cutting it in half, and I'm going to slide those two pieces together to shorten it, because that was the biggest problem we had, was that it was too long. So I'm cutting this in half. I'm going to slide it together, and then I'm going to put it all together with a fiberglass coating and screws that go over top of it. So yeah, just watch what I'm doing here. You know, this isn't a video to tell you guys how to do it. It's more of just to show you what I learned from doing it, and then what I wouldn't do if I did it again. And one of the biggest things, I would not cut it the way I did right here. I would have actually probably cut it a little further back, but one of the biggest problems was I was having a hard time fitting to the front of this van. So we have cut the van top. Okay, you can see how we've cut it. And we're just going to kind of fold them into each other and then remold them or reconnect them here so that it fits. That's the plan anyway. So I am putting bolts into this just for now, and I'm going to put adhesive tomorrow when it's a little warmer. Okay, so it is day 3 of working on the topper. Here it is in all its glory. While I'm working on it, you can see where I riveted in some, and now it's time to bond it together and get it all to be one piece. This is a Chevy van topper, and that is a Ford van, so they are not made for each other, but you can definitely make it work. So I think it's good that you guys are seeing my thought processes on how this is going, and what I was thinking about building it at the time, because it was a process of just figuring out what would work, because there's not really a lot of information about this out there, but it is, if you're willing to stick with it, you can get it to work. So right here I'm just sanding 2 parts because I'm about to bond them with a glue, and that is what I use right there, just a power grab Loctite glue. It worked really well, or it's a adhesive, not a glue. It worked really well holding it together, and that's how I made sure that there's not going to be any leaks in our van, was just using some kind of polyurethane based bonding agent. And then I screwed it together all the way across, and was pretty liberal with the screw amount. I used a lot of screws that held it together, and then I made sure that I ran a good bead of that Loctite grab adhesive all the way across it, so there's no leaking. I've glued it with the bonding adhesive. So I left this in here just so you could tell that there is a lot of work that goes with this. That is a lot just to reuse one of these, but I got it for $150, so it was definitely worth it. But I'm scraping out old glue and everything. So right here I'm getting it ready for some Bondo that I am about to place on it, some body filler to try to help with that lip a little bit. Alright, I'm going to try to put some Bondo on here and see how it does. The Bondo actually worked really well and helped create a smooth transition between the two, which I later took fiberglass and put it over top of it to make it completely one piece with the topper itself, and bonded them completely. But the Bondo kind of gave it that curve and helped fill it back in to make it look a little more natural, like it wasn't cut in half, which it turned out pretty well, and you can't really tell as of right now, even without it painted, that it isn't still attached. Here's a good little view of what it looks like when it was done. And I'm just sanding, and then this was a bunch of sanding, reapplying, just like all body work is, but just to get the right curvature and to get it the way I want it to look, so there wouldn't be a lot of air pockets in the fiberglass. And I had a small platter to mix my Bondo or my body filler on, and I would definitely recommend getting a bigger platter. I'm just filling some body places there. There were more holes in the topper, and I just want to show you guys that I did fill other holes also. Right here, this is really important. I was sanding down and scraping down a spot to the fiberglass for when I'm placing the fiberglass on top. I was giving it a fiberglass to fiberglass connection. That way the fiberglass got adhesed to it very well. So I'm just cleaning it, getting the fiberglass clean, wiping it down with mineral spirits, and then I am putting the fiberglass resin over top. So these are just sheets of fiberglass, and having 2 people right here is a big need. It took us a little bit to get the process figured out, but having one person who's getting their hands destroyed by the resin and one person who is handing them the fiberglass mesh pieces really worked out well for us, and it turned out great. It was very strong, and probably stronger than the rest of the topper itself, because I put a lot of bending on this when I put it back on the van, and it still held, so that was really awesome. So this is the end result. I sanded here to the fiberglass through the primer and stuff, so it gets a really good seal on both sides, at least one spot. And that is going to be sanded next, and then we'll paint over it, and hopefully it'll barely be noticeable. So here I am placing fiberglass on the bottom side. Retrospectively, I didn't need to do this, but I just kind of wanted to make sure it was sealed really well, and so it worked out, but it just kind of was a little more hassle than the top side was because there were bolts down there. So I'm just making sure I'm pressing out all the air right there. So this is after we've got it back on the van. Me and my dad there, we're just adjusting it, cutting it where it needed to be cut, and so then I'm cutting the roof off. And I would advise not to do this step until you know for a fact that your topper is going to work for you, because once the roof comes off, there is no going back. So we're cutting the roof off, and I learned that an air chisel is not the way to do it. I watched a video about an air chisel, works pretty well, but with cutting the roof off, just be very careful. As you can see, I'm switching between air chisel and skill saw, that you don't want to cut those braces if you're going to cut it from the top like I did. Just use the air chisel where the braces are and don't cut through them. So, but the skill saw cuts it really well, and so I would recommend doing the skill saw for most of the top, and it cuts a really good straight line. And we did all our lines with a chalk line, and just popped them, and it worked out really well for us. And I just followed those channelings on the side, and then when I came across, I just made sure I had a good line. and just stick with it. You'll eventually get the roof off, and it's actually probably the easiest part of all of this, especially if you have to modify the roof like I did. So it worked out really good for us, and I think it'll work out really good for you. So this is me and my wife moving the topper together for the first time. It's very difficult, and I would make sure you have something behind it or someone to stop it from sliding like this, because we did that a couple times, and then she got on the other side and it really worked out better, because they do slide pretty easy, especially without the plywood in it, which we didn't know about in the beginning. It was a little bit lighter, so now I didn't squish her. She just held it down while I turned it up, and so we got it on there. This was the final dry fit after we'd cut the roof off. So I actually put it all on. I don't have any video of this, but here's what I used to put it on with. Just a polyurethane based, like silicone type bonding agent that is supposed to be water resistant and help keep water out. And the screws are really what's mainly holding it on, not the adhesive. So here I am putting those screws on. Something I learned that I wish I would have known better to begin with is that you should put the channeling on before you put the screws on, although it was kind of a had to make it fit situation, because the channeling helps the screws from running through the fiberglass, and helps give a better connection to the van. So I took the screws out and reattached them afterwards, after I'd got it fitting exactly how I wanted it. And that's the biggest thing about this, is you want to get it fitting exactly how you want it before you commit to anything, because if you don't have it there and you can't get it there, you're stuck. So here is the final result. I think it looks pretty good. If you have any questions, or just want to know how you could do it for this cheap or make it work, just send a comment down below or email us, and I will definitely follow up with you and try to help you out as best I can to find a topper that works for you.